So American, the Marshall Plan.
Fun.
Right?
Fun. We hardly ever get to use that. I'm excited that it's the season again.
It is. It is the season.
Marshall
Plan season. Chris here to give us the players to watch for this Notre Dame team as we preview the ACC here this week. Why don't we start with not one of the big names that you think of with this Irish team. Let's start with somebody else.
All right, if you say so. And we're going to talk about a guy whose versatility I really like. And you take a look at what Gleason's able to do, Brendan Gleason, for this team. He's a guy who's been a great goal scorer. He's a great shooter for this team. Last season, he went out, had 25 and 6. I suspect we'll see him in the midfield this season, but he's a guy that can play in attack. He can play in the midfield. He's got a big frame. He's a tough cover. And I think when you're looking at this team and the strength of the team being down low as a part of the attack, if you can have a guy who's a great scorer up top, that'll just open things up for some of the attackmen who are really dynamic, both on ball and off ball. So you need to have a big shooter, especially with Gray moving on after, I think being eliminated from lacrosse after breaking too many goals.
Broke the net.
But he graduated.
Also moving on to Sergio Perkovic.
Yes.
So the midfield, certainly a question mark. He will try to fill that. We can't talk about Notre Dame without talking some sort of defense, and that's our next guy.
That's the next guy. And I think you look at John Sexton and what he's capable of doing. He might be the best all-around long pole in the country this season. And we've seen a lot of really good polls come out of this program. And the knock on them is always that they're system guys and they don't play well. But then you start to look at some of the guys in the next level who are having a lot of success. The Matt Landises of the world, the Edwin Glazners of the world, who have been very good over the last couple of seasons. And Sexton is the next in line. I think when you look at his skill set in between the lines, not only as a defender, but as a guy who can push transition. This past year, he had 4 Gs. He tacked on 46 ground balls, had 23 caused turnovers. Those are exceptional numbers for any player. But when you look at it from a guy coming through in the defensive midfield, he's a guy who is a huge impact player. I think we might see him stay a little longer on some of the offensive shifts because he's good enough to do it. Yeah. And we saw it be functional for Scott Ratliff, so I think we may see more of that. But he's a guy who's going to be a great defender. He's going to eat up all those ground balls, and especially when they're coming out this season with a face-off guy without as many reps as they've had in the past, he'll be a huge part of that wing unit as well.
There's a reason he's been an All-American here. Once again, a first-team preseason All-American.
Reason why we have him going in the first round as well.
Also, that
in
as you look
mock
ahead.
draft 1.0.
All right, let's get to the names that people know.
Well, we're going to talk about Mikey Wynne here, and he's a guy that over the course of his 3 seasons in South Bend, this, of course, is his senior year, he's had 30-plus goals. Every season he has been in the blue and gold, and that's an impressive number, especially for a team that really kind of hangs its hat on defense. They're not a team that's going to run you off the field like a Virginia or Brown.
They don't score tons
or Loyola.
Of goals. Right.
So you got to go out there and really earn those goals. And you look at his stats last year, 33-4. He's clearly a goal scorer. He's a guy he's a catch and shoot guy. He moves around. He's really crafty on the crease. He's a guy that can get open and find the spaces. And when he does have it in his stick, he can also create. Generally, it's going to goal. So if they ever get a mismatch with him, he's another guy that's really tough to cover. So you look at some of the two-man games, some of the switches going on. He's a guy that is very, very dangerous.
So Mikey Wynne, one of the big pieces on this offense, his guy up front, his boy, is Ryder Garnsey. Obviously, we heard from Coach Corrigan, he wasn't real thrilled with how last year went, contemplated transferring, but he's back. What do you expect from Garnsey?
Well, he better be good. I can tell you that much. And he's such a good player, and he's such a big part of this. When you look at his statistics, I mean, a couple of the guys that we've talked about, you look at big-time goal scorers, not as big as facilitators. He had 20 and 23 last season. So he's the guy that stirs the pot. He's a clutch player. Obviously, we remember his celebration after scoring the game winner last season that went viral. But he's a guy now that needs to earn the confidence again of his teammates, and the best way to do that, the best way to fix anything is winning. And so he's got to go out there and have a career year. He wanted that number 50 because Kavanaugh wore it, and he was fantastic for them. So I think we're going to see a stellar year from Ryder Garnsey, not only because I think he's the best player on this team, especially the best offensive player, but because he needs to. Otherwise, it might be a long season with some tough losses for Notre Dame.
Look, he put a lot of those expectations on himself with how he performed as a freshman. Maybe a little bit of a slump. We will see if he can come back up now as a junior, staying in South Bend. So there you go. The Marshall Plan, Notre Dame players to watch this season?